Hi, everybody. Brett Williams from BretFX.com here. I wanted to share with you where I'm at on the Speech Bubble plugin, which I know I put the demo out a long time ago, and a lot of people have expressed interest since the site launch. So I'm working toward that being the next thing. Maybe next week, maybe Tuesday, we'll get this thing launched. But I had a couple questions for the other motion developers as well. So if you hold with me for a second, let me run through what we've done on Speech Bubble. Um, every instance of speech bubble can be either, just the bubble or the background, the panel, sort of a comic book panel, or it can be both. But if you want had a long scene with a bunch of speech bubbles popping up, like a comic book that you wanted to have the, look like it's in a comic book panel, you'd probably do like I've done here and just put only the comic book panel underneath, and that also has the built-in cartoon effects on it. So to show a little bit about that, I guess, working from the back up, you can now on the panel, instead of just this one rectangular shape that it shows in the demo, go down to panel. We were also calling this a frame, but apparently it's more comic book correct to call it a panel. So you can change the panel just a couple different shapes. You can make a rectangle, a square. You can make it tall or wide, round even. I decided would be kind of cool. Um, and for each one of these, I thought about making it where you could move the video around behind it. Since this is a title effect, it is affecting the background, but I decided it's really not gaining anything. It was just cluttering up the interface. So I took that and, so if you want to move it, you just use the regular Final Cut transform controls. So now you could have, something skinny little in the, and have your bubble effects kind of outside of the lines there. Yeah, so he's asking about more coffee. Oh yeah, fill her up. So you notice they animate on and they animate off. That is controllable. I'll go ahead and make this panel a rectangle again. So we can see everything. Oh, and let's move this back into place. There we go. So on our speech bubbles, we've added a couple, not just the panels have changed, we've added a couple shapes with the speech bubble. So you can do the standard round bubble. And I think we had the rectangle. Now each one of these you can actually control the roundness. Doesn't do you much good on a round bubble, but you can, change the size of each one. Actually, you can only change the size on two of them. They're the narrow ones. So on rectangle, adjustable width, and info rectangle, that doesn't have the tail, which you'd probably make that square. Other shapes you can use now are thought bubble. Wait, that was already there. Sorry, thought bubble. The three we added are shout, shout 2, and bang, in which case you'd probably lose the little tail effect, and that's more like your Batman pow, bang, bam. Neat little effect. The animation always comes from the direction here that the tail is aimed at, so it's sort of coming, even if you adjust this a little bit, it's still just coming from the upper right or the upper left or the lower left or the lower right, just to keep things simple. I'll take this back to round, show you. So, and then the next one here is coming, yep, it's subtle, but it's coming from the lower left there, and it just gives kind of a feel of direction. Anyway, okay, so you can change the roundness. You've got outline 1, that's this black outline. You can, of course, change that. That's always been there. Whoops. Wrong one selected. So you've always been able to change that. But after we came up with outliner, I thought, well, it'd be better if you had a second outline, to, like they kind of do in print, to make it stand out from the background a little more. So now we added a second color. and a second outline. Of course, you can change every color, you know, every width, scale. We still have the on-screen controls for moving this around. That's for the one that you can change the width, but and of course you can change where the tail aims and the scale. All right, so moving on, part of the problem I'm having is with this background frame choice here. You can go in with the frame, with the panel. I'm sorry, you can now change the color right now of the background, by the way, and you can turn that off. So now you can, if you were to compound clip, say the video and the panel, you could then, shrink it, scale it with the regular Final Cut transform tools and create your own comic book. Now I'll leave that on. The outline color is what's getting me here. When you're on rectangle, which is the master layer in motion, you can change the color of this and it changes instantly. If I change it over to, say, square, we can move this around too. So it makes more sense. So we can move that over there. The thickness, I was having problems with the thickness updating, but I did a rig and that seems to work better. I hadn't figured out how to really rig the color. Maybe I can. Maybe that's my answer. Well, the problem I'm having with the color is on anything but the rectangle, if I switch, to blue or red, you name it, it doesn't update until I jump down here in the timeline. That kind of forces an update here. That's the dilemma I'm having there. The other dilemma is in the cartoon effects, which we've kind of updated here to have some image detail control, other than just the halftone. Of course, the halftone, you can change the size of that, the contrast of it, and the strength. Turn it off for that matter if you want, really. But ink outline, we've got all these different little. Take it up, the outline disappears. It's very sensitive little control. The outline smoothness. So you can probably find a look in here that works for you, and it's all pretty dependent on what the scene looks like. But the problem I'm having here, the only other thing here we have is posterization. Turn that on or off. That kind of gives you a lot less colors. Maybe it looks like a cheap comic book. I don't know. Problem I'm having here is I added motion strobe so that you can, keep it from being, 30 frames a second. Hopefully you can turn the strobing on, and get kind of a stuttered look. I think this shot is actually slow-mo to start with, so it's a little strange. But if I crank this up some things, like 10, it actually looks like it's going, let's go over here, like backwards and forwards. See how it's jittering around like that. So I don't know what to do there. I don't know what's wrong with that. So if anybody knows the answer to my outline update question and my motion strobe issue, I can take motion strobe out and make that a separate little add-on plugin. It's really just publishing something that's missing from Final Cut for some reason. It was in Final Cut 7. So anyway, that's what we're looking at here. If anybody knows the answer to those, I'd be very grateful. I can deal with the outline, I guess, and just put a little note in there that sometimes you have to click in the timeline, and if that's the way it is, that's the way it is. But I'd love to get the motion strobe working correctly. Some frame rates it seems okay, others it doesn't. I don't know why it would go backwards. Anyway, thanks for listening, and I hope to hear from you soon.